Have you ever stopped to think about what might be hiding in your food? Not just the ingredients listed on the label, but something smaller, something unseen, something plastic. These aren't big chunks, but tiny fragments called microplastics. Particles smaller than 5 millimeters across. They come from all sorts of places. Think about larger plastic items breaking down over time, fibers shedding from our clothes in the wash, or even microscopic beads used in some personal care products. These tiny pieces are now widespread pollutants. But how do they get from a plastic bottle or a face scrub into the environment and eventually onto our plates? It's like a cycle, the plastic cycle. These particles travel easily through water, are carried by the wind through the air, and settle into the soil on land, connecting basically every part of our planet. Once they're out there, they start entering the food chain, right at the very bottom. In the oceans and lakes, tiny organisms like plankton mistake these plastic bits for food and eat them. Then, slightly bigger creatures eat the plankton, and so on, moving up the food chain. Fish eat smaller fish, and eventually these plastics can end up in the seafood we consume. It's a process called bioaccumulation, and it's not just seafood. Microplastics have turned up in a surprising number of things we eat and drink. They've been identified in drinking water, salt, sugar, honey, plant products, and even other beverages. It seems they are becoming quite common in our diet. Humans are exposed mainly through eating and drinking contaminated items, but also through breathing them in or skin contact. Think about the different sources. Drinking water could expose us to over 33,000 particles daily if we consume 2 liters. Research suggests ingesting these microplastics, and even smaller nanoplastics, might not be harmless. Potential health effects could include impacts on our digestive system, possibly leading to oxidative stress, inflammation, or metabolic disorders. There are links being explored to gut injury and liver issues. These particles might also disrupt the delicate balance of our gut microbiome. And it's not just digestion. Studies hint at impacts on breathing, possibly worsening asthma, and even potential effects on the reproductive system, like damaging sperm or upsetting hormonal balance. There's another layer to this problem. Microplastics don't just travel alone. Because of their large surface area, they can act like tiny sponges, soaking up other contaminants from the environment, things like heavy metals or other persistent pollutants. When an organism eats the plastic, it gets a dose of these attached toxins too. The food supply chain itself can introduce microplastics. Food packaging, like plastic containers and polyethylene bags, are major sources. As packaging breaks down or sheds particles during processing, storage, or even cooking, it can contaminate the final product. It's not just processed foods either. These particles can get into the soil, and from there, into the plants we eat. Nanoplastics seem more likely to get inside plant cells than larger microplastics, pulled in as the plant draws up water. Farming practices, weather, and soil life all influence how these plastics move around in agricultural environments. Scientists are working hard to understand the full picture. Research initiatives, like the CUSP cluster in Europe, are bringing together multiple projects to study the long-term health impacts and figure out exactly how much plastic we're taking in from diet and the air. They're also looking at how plastics are used and lost during food production and packaging. Finding and measuring these tiny particles, especially the even smaller nanoplastics, is incredibly difficult, particularly in complex things like food. It often requires combining several high-tech methods, and getting consistent, reliable results is still a major challenge. So, what can be done? Solutions are being explored at different levels. Industries are looking at using alternative materials, recycled, biodegradable plastics, or redesigning products to use less plastic altogether. Some single-use plastics are being banned. Improving waste management and increasing recycling are key. Ultimately, the most straightforward approach seems to be reducing our reliance on plastics in daily life.